Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the Bitcoin Focus Show. Today is September the 5th, 2019. Strong hand. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Long-term thinking. All right. Tuur Demeester, you're going to get a 12-minute hit at Tuur Demeester now. He definitely had some long-term thinking in this one. Enjoy it, people. See ya.
I'm a cryptocurrency maximalist, right? Because I think cryptocurrency, really, the promise of cryptocurrency is an internet of property where not only do you have money and cash and digital cash, all those kind of things, but then also layers of financial products built on top of it, prediction markets, derivatives, bonds, all kinds of things built on top of it. And so in order to be able to build that, you need a secure base. And I think that Bitcoin could be that. And because this secure base is so important, and because of all these network effects, I really do think that we'll have one dominant cryptocurrency that is going to be the basis. And then, of course, there'll be other ones that fill certain niches and that are maybe more like the intranets of today's internet. Like there's other types of networks, but that are much smaller.
And is Ripple, should that really even be listed on there? I mean, what do you think about?
It depends what you define as a cryptocurrency. I imagine Ripple is using some cryptography. Is it a blockchain? Not really. It's if you want to know what Ripple was going to be, you should look at Stellar. Like that's the project that came from when the founder left Ripple, the inventor of the Ripple protocol. When he left Ripple, he took the open source code and built Stellar. But even back in the day, it wasn't really a blockchain. I think it's an interesting fintech story. There could be something there. It could be valuable. It could kind of ride the same wave, but it's definitely not a competitor to Bitcoin. It's if anything, it's almost the opposite. It's a KYC coin. Like the way Ripple is promoted is that it's extremely auditable. Like for regulators, it's like the dream. Like you could track any currency, any token through all the different owners and like see when it was there and how long it was kept there. And so it could be the next thing for the central banks to adopt Ripple in some way, or for Swift to start working with Ripple. So I think it's interesting, but like for totally different reasons than Bitcoin.
Wow, that I love that KYC coin term. I am going to use that one in the future. When anyone asks me about Ripple, that's just what I'm going to say. Dude, it's a KYC coin. It's not that far away. The year 2020, we're going to have a Bitcoin halving. What do you see for the year 2020 in Bitcoin? Where do you see Bitcoin at? Where do you see its price? Where do you see this world and what Bitcoin is doing as we approach this 2020 halving? How many people are going to be using it? What's going to be going on?
Well, there was a survey in 2015 that looked at how many US consumers own Bitcoin. And the number back then was like 0.8%, I believe. And I did some research, and turns out that was the equivalent for, 2015, that was the equivalent for internet adoption in 1990 in the US as well. And so extrapolating from that, I'm not saying that this is what it is, but we don't have a lot to work with when you want to, compare Bitcoin growth to anything else. And I do think that there's some similarities with internet adoption where it's not only like a mental leap. It's not only a hardware leap. It's not only like somewhat of a financial leap, but it's all those things combined. So I see that in Bitcoin too. So extrapolating from that 0.8% in 2015 to 2020, it's possible that 2020 is going to be like the Windows 95 moment. That could happen, and that we actually see this breakthrough start of generalized adoption of Bitcoin. Once all these problems with scalability are ironed out, and we have like very performant Lightning networks out there, and just a very diversified exchange system, and several countries accepting Bitcoin for tax purposes, and maybe also Bitcoin serving as a reserve asset for some smaller central banks. You know, I think that is not unthinkable at all.
So do you have a price prediction or a desire where you'd like to see it in 2020 exactly?
Well, my desire is $1 million, obviously, but yeah, I don't really know. I really don't know. I do think that I do think it's going to keep on being cyclical. It's going to keep on being a cyclical asset, and so to say January 2020 is going to be this price, I don't know, but I do think by then we will have had at least one rally where the price spikes to $10,000 and more. That doesn't mean that it can't cool down again. But yeah, I don't think that's to me that's not like a big prediction to make. That feels like pretty much in the line of expectations.
You know, I do hear it. For me, it's still an amazing number, $10,000. I still think it's. You know, you hear all these people who just want to have articles written about them that say $500,000. It seems like a lot. There are a few logical people, quite a few logical people out there like yourself who do say, yeah, 10,000 for 2020. I can't. It's such a number. I can't say it. I mean, that would be just great. I would be beyond happiness if such a thing happens.
I think maybe the way people are looking at smart contracts, and especially, you're right, I mean, solving that Oracle problem is huge, is maybe the way people were excited about video streaming in 1999, and then it took 10 years for it to actually be, you know, workable and real. So maybe it is going to be another 10 years to have, like, you know, legit multi-billion-dollar sustainable decent token offerings, things like that. And then when it comes to IOTA, I don't have strong opinions. I just started like a thread kind of aggregating some skeptical voices that are basically arguing that, you know, it's not decentralized, it is actually decentralized today, that this Tangle idea is maybe you know, kind of like more of a brain fart than something that is a breakthrough. And I see that with a lot of these projects, is that, you know, in a way, it's like, you know, these cryptographers, I kind of see them as these theoretical physicists, where they're like, you know, they're like trying to figure out maybe like post-Newtonian physics. And then there's this 25-year-old who comes like from nowhere, who's totally not connected to this community that are trying to solve these really hard problems. And he's saying he came up with this total breakthrough, or he's promising to, it's actually, you know, even worse. Like he's saying, I'm going to produce this breakthrough, give me money now. So, you know, I think that's like, that should elicit some frowns and some raised eyebrows. And so that's kind of how I felt about IOTA. It's like, well, it's very big claim to make. And then so far from the, you know, established theoretical physicists, so to speak, I'm not seeing a lot of excitement. That's just, you know, where I am. I don't know much about many details. So yeah, so far there's not a lot of upside to pointing out flaws, right? I mean, there's not a lot of liquidity. There's like a lot of like hot money. And so like if the market is more mature, you can have firms that are like, you know, one of them is Muddy Waters in the traditional world. They focused on China, and they would basically analyze these publicly traded companies. And then if they found fraud, they would, you know, get a short position in the company and then publish their report, and then in a way make it sustainable for them to specialize in this kind of criticism. But today, what is really the upside if you're going to point out that IOTA doesn't work? Like, you can't make any money off of it, really. People are upset with you. They might attack you. And then you're wasting time on and then also intellectually, it might not be very stimulating, because often these ideas are like rehashes of things that you can find in the Bitcoin Talk archives of 2012. Like somebody, you know, already brought it up, and now it's just kind of like the turd is polished, and they made a white paper around it. This, I would recommend people check out the WizSec presentation from Breaking Bitcoin. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Basically, you know, this analyst who lives in It's not Hong Kong, it's Tokyo, who's done this analysis of what happened with Mt. Gox. I think it's extremely interesting. And one of the highlights for me was that aside from, sorry, I'm just losing the screen here. Aside from that infamous hack of 600,000 Bitcoins, there were at least, because for brevity, he just left out a bunch of incidents, but he highlighted 7 totally separate incidents where security of Mt. Gox was compromised, and where in total between 50 and 100,000 Bitcoins were lost. And then just, you know, that made me start asking around Breaking Bitcoin, like, hey, have you interacted with some of the existing Bitcoin exchanges? What do you think? And there are concerns that, you know, security is not as good as we all hope that it is. And so I really do think that we will have we're not out of the woods. We are still going to have big Bitcoin hacks or Bitcoin exchange hacks. Because I think to some extent it's still amateur hour when it comes to security. Of course, you know, Mark Karpellis really set the bar, let's say, very, very low. But that doesn't mean that anybody who's like a little better than Mark is out of the woods. So that would be like, you know, try to be safe, keep up with what's, you know, the latest news about hardware wallets and how to store your own Bitcoins. Really try to just, you know, do your research, because every day people get hacked, and of course not just, you know, exchanges, also individuals. They go after you on social media. It's really tricky, and so I would say try and diversify and really, you know, do your homework, because you want to be on board of this for the long run. Like I keep saying it, I've never been this excited about Bitcoin's long-term future ever. And then people call me and they're like, hey, you said that 6 months ago. It's like, yeah, but I'm more excited now. So I don't know. I think this is an amazing, you know, technology, an amazing community of developers. And so, you know, you want to stay on board, right? You don't want to, you know, get hacked or stolen from. So yeah, I would just say, you know, be careful. That's all I would say.
Pound that like button, everybody.